Welcome back, everyone. Um, Last week we had a very exciting week, and this week was a little less competitive, I'll say. I'm going to try and get through these matchups pretty quickly here and then take a look at the standings since we're halfway through the season. First up, this was actually the closest matchup of the week as I took down Brittany here. Looks close due to this no advance notice, just almost a healthy scratch for Bijan Robinson. I'm not even sure what to call it. I had Jonathan Taylor just waiting here on the bench if anything was awry, but no heads up whatsoever leads to a point 0.3 point performance out of my top running back. Still was able to pull out the victory here as I was lucky enough to play against Brittany on a week where she was hit with some bye struggles, starting Latavius Murray once again. We've talked many times about her limited bench depth, and with Henry and Adam Thielen on a bye, I was lucky enough to get this convenient timing for this matchup. She also picked up a third quarterback off the waivers this week to try and prevent me from having a quarterback, but I was able to get something serviceable out of Russell Wilson, and that was enough to get me the victory. Next up, we have a matchup that looked like it was going to be pretty close going into Monday Night Football. Talked about Lou being active on the trade block. James Cook and Jahmyr Gibbs. I traded him both of these players, combined for 40 points this week, but it ended up not mattering at all because Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Addison combined for almost 50 points on Monday Night Football, and this ended up not being a close matchup at all. Third up, Paul retains his first place status in the league with a win over Jeff, mostly off the back of Josh Allen and Tyreek Hill, who he's been counting on all season long. But this week, I mean, most people did well. Even Kareem Hunt added in 15 points. Mike Evans, Hawkinson, Pittman, all solid games. Solid week altogether for Paul. As for Jeff, he's got some question marks on the roster. We're starting Antonio Gibson and Elijah Moore. Things aren't going well. Andrews had a good game, but it just wasn't enough. He's got some bye and injury issues and still trying to figure some things out at this point in the season. Here we have the stomp of the week and the high score week of the week for Ryan. And Ryan already did most of the analysis here. He did double Tim's points. If you took Tim's last 2 weeks of points and combined them, Ryan still would have won. And just to make matters worse, if you add up the bench points, that also would have beat Tim's team this week. That's some sort of trifecta. I'm not exactly sure, but if you just take a look over here, Ryan had the high scoring quarterback of the week, the high scoring kicker of the week, and the high scoring bench, running back, and wide receiver of the week. Everyone on his team decided to pop off at the same time. Let's see if he saves some points for next week. As for Tim, not a lot to speak of here. His quarterback and kicker outscored the rest of his team combined. Bench is looking bleak. We'll see where this team goes from here. Here we have a kind of another disappointing matchup as Zach gets the win over the Priors while starting a quarterback who had -2 points. This is mostly due to the Priors just dropping the ball this week. They were the low score of the week. Diggs had a fairly average game with 15, but everybody other than him kind of did nothing. Zach made some questionable decisions on who to start at running back and wide receiver, but Travis Kelce scored 30 points, and that can cover up a lot of questionable moves by a manager. This is Zach's second win in a row, which brings him up to 3-4, right back in the thick of things. Last up, Skip keeps finding a way to win. Still has Kadarius Toney in the lineup, starting the backup Broncos running back in the flex. It doesn't matter. He's dropping 120 and winning handily over Brian Case. Mahomes, Kamara, St. Brown, Waller, all big games. Team did well. He's one of the highest scoring players of the week. Somehow, with no bench depth, just filling in players wherever he can and still performing well. As for Brian, he dealt with the Chubb injury, got his back up, and now Ford is injured as well. He is scrambling to fill out this roster. Ridley one of the bigger busts of the season so far. We'll see if he can turn this around from a 2-5 start. Speaking of, we're halfway through the season. Parity, not so good this week. 4 of the 4-2 teams out of the 5 won to go to 5-2, creating some gap between the tied for first teams and the remainder of the league. There was some clumping here at 3-4. We have a 5-way tie at 3-4. 10 out of the 12 teams in the league are within 2 games of each other still. And I think we have everybody still in the running, very much so, for these 6 playoff spots. Paul remains in first with the highest points for by a wide margin. Chase moved into second place with a big week in my down week. He jumped over me in points for. Halfway through the season, Tim is right where he belongs at 8th overall on the ladder. Due to Ryan dumpstering him, he actually jumped into the most points against on the league, taking over that from Brittany. That's about it. Like I said, I think things are still close. Still got a lot of time to go. We'll see how it ends up on next week's Commissioner's Corner.